Welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast with your charismatic host and prominent safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Be entertained and informed as the Safety Doc discusses both best and bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. The truth will keep you safe. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD.
Hi, everybody. This is David, and welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast. So today's show is Back to School Safety Special. Time to be totally terrified. Safety Doc episode number 39. So we're going to talk about back to school. When I talk about totally terrified, you know, there's a lot of hype that goes into drills with back to school. So let's talk about that, what happens and what truly needs to happen to prepare students, staff, administration, community, parents for what back to school safety really is all about. So a few anecdotes to start out. One is I love running, so I was down on the high school track a few nights ago, and, about 12 feet in, something's moving, and I'm thinking, it's maybe a groundhog, something like that. So I take my flashlight, shine it over. It is a skunk. It's a skunk. So I'm like, oh, wow, this skunk's kind of ignoring me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to slow down and just exit. And so 2 days later, I go back down, and then there's a paved path that goes to the track. And a skunk is on this path. So I'm like, dude, what's the deal here? Of course, it's far enough away, and it kind of ignores me. And, of course, I turn around, but I'm thinking, well, I've got to make a decision here, because I can't just keep going down to the track, because if I run and a skunk is on the track, it could get frightened, and, I could end up standing outside getting hosed off, with hydrogen peroxide and tomato juice, to get the skunk smell off of me. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We have Japanese beetles have kind of infested our area, and they are a delicacy apparently for skunks. So I think that's why the skunks are out. I've lived here 15 years, had never seen skunks until this week. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to just kind of stick with, running or biking during the day for now, let it get a little cooler. And then, Japanese beetles, I think will be gone. Give it a chance and go back. Hopefully won't encounter any skunks in a negative way. Thankfully, skunks are pretty docile, and I think if you leave them alone, you're okay. But yeah, just weird. So I went to the county fair with my family, and it's close by, which is nice. When you live in the county seat, the county fair right there. So a few observations though. So less displays, lower attendance. And, it was a wonderful day. It was like 78 and sunny, but fewer rides for, the kids. They had wristband day. There wasn't a Ferris wheel. And then, of course, the displays. Most of it is photography, but, people have made quilts or their own clothes, which always amazes me, and other things. But there just wasn't a lot of that this year. And I don't know if it's a trend of the fair kind of dying out. Because you think of when fair started, the things that people used to display, a lot of homemade, things. And I wonder if there is more of a modern version of the fair, because I just don't see it appealing as much to the younger generation. So, and the other part, we went through the barn, basically, where they keep the rabbits and roosters and chickens and things like that. And they're small pens, so you walk by and you look and you get, this one got a blue ribbon, this one got a red ribbon, this one got a gold ribbon, whatever. And I kind of feel bad about that a little bit, because it's like, well, it's such a small pen, and, it can't be that comfortable for whatever animal is in there. And at the same time, I think it's kind of good for my daughters to see some different animals, because we live in the city. Of course, we don't have anything except cats. So yeah, we have some different, animals that we're exposed to through the fair. I think it'd be really cool if what they did is they would let you hold a bunny, or, they would let you pet a rooster. I don't know. Can you pet a rooster? But things like that, a little more interactive. But I don't know. It just had this feeling of being a little bit outdated. And I've gone to it, pretty much every year we've gone to it. And this was the first year I kind of felt that. Although there was this pretzel stand. It hadn't been there before. It's local. They make this big soft pretzel in front of you. And I had this large Parmesan pretzel, which was the best soft pretzel I've had in my life. So from that regard, yes, fair, awesome. So yeah, wow. Anyway, I'm out biking the other day. And these are great bike rides. It's kind of getting a little bit toward the end of the season for me for bike rides. And so what I like is, the crops are grown. So you get to see the corn and the tassels, you can start to see, and you get that sweetness that comes off the field with the breeze. And all of a sudden, I'm biking down. It's a country road. It's paved. And this pheasant walks out to the middle of the road, about 30 feet ahead of me. And I'm biking like really slow, and I kind of like just stopped. And this pheasant looks at me, kind of eyed me up, and then he kind of like walks a little bit back toward the ditch, gives kind of a little signal, also like 20 pheasants fly, just take off, and then I just keep biking on. I'm thinking, dude, pheasant, like you were sent out here to do reconnaissance, like to check me out. I'm on a bike. All I want to do is just bike past. You could have just gone back and told your buddies, hey, this guy's all right. He's just biking through. There's no need for us to like expel all our energy and fly way over here to these trees and whatever. I just thought it was the goofiest thing. Came back. It wasn't pheasants. It was turkeys crossing the road. So I had to wait for this, like, I'm sure there's a term for turkeys crossing the road. And these turkeys cross the road. And then the last one doesn't, though. The last one is questioning, should he like keep going, follow all of his turkey friends, but he takes off and goes back the other way. So I'm like, again, poor choice, turkey. I'm just waiting to get across, once you guys are done here. So, but funny some of the behavior of these animals, the reconnaissance pheasant, and I think the scared turkey. So we are going to talk today about high drama multi-agency drills. Multi-agency, not interagency. I say multi-agency because police, fire, and EMS typically don't practice together. Like when fire departments practice, they have like their Thursday night practice twice a month or, whatever. And they're not practicing with fire and with EMS. And when EMS, does their drills and practice, they're not practicing typically. When you have these school, like the active shooter type multi-agency events, yeah, then they're all together. But I'm saying interagency is where I think you have this ongoing collaboration, which really doesn't exist. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think a lot of that can develop these systems kind of in the moment. We saw that at 9/11, and this boat rescue of 500,000 people in 9 hours from New York Harbor. These systems of highly trained professionals can merge and create this greater system. But again, these are multi-agency drills, not interagency drills, just to be clear on that. And these can cause trauma, okay? When you do up, and like the image for today's episode, if you're watching on YouTube, and also, this is the image I'm using for the audio version. But it's a girl who is done up with makeup, so she has apparently gunshot wound to the head and then also to the chest. And I actually got to play the role of someone who was shot and lying down in a hallway. And these things I think are just ridiculous. I think they're ridiculous. Yet we have a movement out there where school after school is doing this. Okay, they're doing these. They're being convinced by these paramilitary organizations that you have to be going through this training and all of this so you can defend yourself against school intruders. Okay, again, the reality is, from empirical science, we know that the probability of a shooting in a school is once every 13,000 years per Cornell University, which comes out to per day. Okay, if we take 180 school days, it's 0.000004% per day that there would be a school shooting at any specific school. And that is significantly less, for example, than the likelihood that there could be a lightning strike out at recess or during a ball game or something like that, like a football game. So, but yet, we know that school shooting it's a sentinel event. It's very dramatic. So of course it rises up in priority, even though in probability it's very, very low. very low. And so we practice for the drills. What do? We get kids and we get adults to participate in everything like that. And they do them up like, they've been shot with blood and they're lying in hallways. And it's supposed to then create this sense of realness for the first responders. And it's just crazy, folks, because we don't train this way when we do fire drills. We don't set baskets on fire, metal baskets with paper on fire and have smoke in hallways and have kids, try to get out and have fire department getting in, trying to find the source of the fire. We don't have barn fans at the end of a hallway, and we shuffle in handfuls of gravel and have, people pelted as if it's like a wind tunnel as a tornado is striking a school. We don't do things like this. We just don't do drills like this in other settings. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's done for people to see. It's done as an illusion of safety. It does not create a safer environment. And we're going to talk about that more once we get into the show. So I'm going to talk right now about best reminders for start of school year for staff, administrators, and students. And then also some of my findings about kind of drill desensitization, being desensitized to drills from my dissertation research, my doctoral dissertation, and then we'll end up with better practices. But for right now, let's take a break so you can learn a little more about the Safety Doc here on the 405media.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perodin, author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Perodin has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Perodin and the Safety Doc podcast.
Welcome back to the Safety Doc podcast. So, best reminders for start of the school year are for staff: exercise situational awareness and trust your gut feeling. That tacit knowledge. Quickly report concerns to administrators. If something doesn't seem right, hey, this person's been walking outside of the school back and forth for an hour. And by the way, it's 75 degrees out and they have like a ski mask on. Report that. That sounds crazy, right? It actually happened in a school that I had worked with, and nobody reported it for well over an hour. Just kind of thought, it's out there, but it's well within the norm, and, he's way out on the sidewalk. So anyway, go through the harassment, again for staff, go through the harassment and threat input system step by step with all students. Like, here's what it is, step by step, and give extra training to youth with special needs. What typically happens here is, this is covered in the handbook. Hey, it was page 37 in the handbook, and parents were asked to go over it with their child, sign that they went over it with their child, and then send that back with their child. What typically happens, like maybe 20% come back. There's no follow-up on that. And then, that's it. It's all passive. Or, like, watch this video online, or we'll have something in a newsletter. No, be explicit. Like, go through what the threat input system is, what is harassment, how to report it, and then especially youth with special needs or English language learners, but let's say youth with special needs, like a student with autism. Have it as an IEP goal that they'll understand what harassment is and how to report that. That's a lifelong skill that you're teaching right there. Administrators, tell staff that you have their back if they exercise discretion to act in the best interest of students, others, or self. So I had an example where I was in this meeting of teachers and community representatives, administrators, police, and so forth. And we're trying to come up with the flip chart, which I'm not a big fan of anyway, but the flip chart of, okay, if there's an active shooter situation, this is what you do. And we got to the point where teachers in the room really struggled with this whole thought of discretion. So like the discretion to, if you can open your window and get your kids out through the playground that way, should you do that? So it's evaluating context and situation and making that judgment. Discretion to even fight an intruder if an intruder is in your room and you have no other option, like you're cornered. And teachers basically wanted to be completely validated because they did not want to do anything that then would bring them into question, okay? Being like, did you make the right decision in this? And were you acting outside of protocol? And if so, if you're acting outside of school protocol, you can be opening yourself possibly to some litigation, things like this. So, that was a painstaking process. It just took forever. But I think you come in and you say, listen, you act in the best interest of that child and yourself in the moment, in the context and the situation. And that's what you do. And that's backed up by the law, folks. I mean, that is backed up by the law. I believe it's like 60 court cases looked at best interest of the student, found in every situation. It was different, because you cannot replicate context and situation. So tell staff that, when there's an intruder event or maybe a bomb threat or something like that, I think this is at a staff meeting at the start of the year. If you're an administrator, you sit down and you say, here's the deal. Like if there is a school shooting, someone brings a gun in, shoots. This is a crime scene. School's probably going to not be accessible to you for 24 to 48 hours. The parking lot isn't. And do that. Let people know ahead of time. You can just say that. I went to a school that there was a school shooting there. And one of the things when I worked with administration afterwards, they said, you know what, the event was horrible, of course, but something that also struck us that we had a hard time dealing with was afterwards, we thought we could go back into the school, retrieve our items, get our cars. I mean, it was later in the day toward night, and go home. And the police said, no, it's a crime scene. You can't get in. You can't get into your vehicles. And you can't go into the parking lot. This is a crime scene. So people then became very anxious, and other districts and other people did a great job in offering rides. But some people actually, this was a rural district, lived an hour away, so they get a ride and then they have to get the ride the next day. And I mean, if you have personal belongings like your cell phone, it's still at your desk or something like that, I mean, you can't access it. It's gone, for that amount of time. So it's just really something, if you tell people ahead of time, I think it helps a lot. And actually, they do that right now, like in survivors of 9/11 there's a survivors group, and they go and talk to people who work in skyscrapers and say, if your skyscraper gets hit by an airplane, this is what to expect as far as like your crisis response. And they do this. They don't talk about like their story. They talk about here's what to expect. And this is something, again, you don't have to dwell on it as an administrator, but I think to make people aware. And that's one thing this group of administrators talked about when I met with them, is they said, if we would have been aware, if someone would have said that, like we would have expected it, and it wouldn't have really hit us that hard as this kind of second phase after the initial event, the secondary event of trying to get back into our Taurus or back into some type of self-similarity closer to it, of being able to get in our classroom, retrieve our personal belongings, get in our vehicle, go home. You're still going to be way in the chaos mode of trying to figure this out. But all of that's gone, like your Taurus. So you're still out in this chaos mode and anxiety. Just think about you. Like if you came out of work and your parking lot is taped off in yellow tape and there's a police officer there saying, something happened out here. You're not going to be able to go home tonight. Like this will probably be for 24 hours a crime scene. You'd be like, what? Just imagine how you'd feel. Okay. So, the other thing, tell parents, if you're an administrator, tell parents that in the event of an intruder or a lockdown situation to not drive to the school. They're going to get text from their kids, okay, saying something's not right at school, please come here right away. And a number of parents are going to drive. They're going to be very passionate, and they're going to come to the school. I need my kid. The thing is, when they come to the schools, and this still happened at Sandy Hook, it was a big problem at Columbine. But what happens is parents come in and they block off the arteries or the way in and the way out for emergency responders. Now you also have additional people to deal with who are very emotional, very irrational, and it's a natural response, and to tell people this is going to be a natural response. This is how you're going to feel. Like your kid is here, you're going to want to get here, but we're not going to be able to get you into the scene to retrieve your child. We're going to have a site, a reunification site, which we will make you aware of. We'll do that through the media. We'll do that through our webpage, through all the different types of social media that we have. So we will do that. And the other thing is to not identify where your reunification sites are, because a number of districts will do this. And one they check. I remember one that checked. They're like, we think the reunification site is this church 2 blocks away, and then they looked and they didn't even have keys to the place. But you don't know what your reunification site is going to be. Let's say it's a natural gas leak at the school, and the fire department says we have to have a 4-block radius that we consider safe, and you're 2-3 blocks in for your reunification site. That's not going to work. So I think the biggest thing is to tell people we are going to have a reunification site that would be identified as appropriate by police and responders, and then we will we'll let you know where that reunification site is, and then set up a orderly way to conduct that reunification. So I think that's much better than people then trying to rush to a site where they're anticipating students are going to be, and they might not necessarily be there. Again, you cannot anticipate where these perimeters are going to be. I think it's very, very bad to set that up ahead of time versus telling people, hey, this is how it's going to work. A reunification site will let you know your child will be safe when they're there. And then, we'll make that reunification site, or it might actually, be at the school, but it's going to be at a certain time. We'll let you know when it's safe. We want to make sure. This is the thing people assume too, like in active shooter situations, for example, like it's one active shooter. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe there were more than one active shooter, shooters involved, or maybe it was an active shooter, but then there's also like a mysterious backpack the active shooter left behind, or things like that. There's numerous things that police need to go through to make sure that a scene is secure. And then also, how that reunification works as far as, not interfering with the evidence at the scene. So I think to let people know this, and I'm going to talk about how to do that too. Again, and also as administrators prepare to investigate and document all claims of harassment and threats. Have that as a standard rote process of how you do that, and then also how you document that. I know an administrator that investigated over 100 claims by one student in 1 year. Okay, you need to be ready to do that. And every time you go about documenting the claim, identifying who is involved, gathering your data, investigating, interviewing, documenting, entering into your system. School districts, administrators take shortcuts on this. I've seen this firsthand through, my work with schools. Some administrators will document everything, and others will not document much or any at all. So it becomes really a struggle then, especially if you have recurrent events, to put together a pattern where you can more appropriately direct assistance and help toward that student if you have documentation of types of those things existing. But for students, yeah, hey, you're part in this. Students, be explicit in covering the school handbook for areas of safety, including threat to others and harm to self. You need to go through the handbook. And basically, though, here's the deal. Like, your teachers need to go over the handbook with you, and you need to ask questions of saying, I don't understand what's the difference between, like, friendly teasing and harassment. Like, you just indicated, like, if this person, their favorite sports team, like, they wear the jersey and the team lost the day before and was, out of the playoffs, and I say something like, oh, you shouldn't have wore that shirt. Is that harassment, or is that like friendly teasing or something like that? So, to me, that's like friendly teasing, but what's the difference in describing that? And then also, students asking questions like, how do I access this online system? Or can I I'm afraid to report this because something might happen to me. Can I go to a teacher and the teacher helps me fill out the form? Can I take something can my parents access this at home? I mean, all these types of questions. Or what if nobody does anything? Or what if I report this and someone tries to beat me up then, or something like that? I mean, these are the things where I think you want to ask students. You want to go through this and ask students. And for students, be explicit. Like say, hey, I don't understand this, or this doesn't make sense to me. Okay. And then also demonstrate that reporting process to students, have them demonstrate it back to you, like actually maybe log into the system up on a smart board or up on a screen, so all the students can see it. Like, this is how you do it, okay? Explain the purpose of drills and be aware of benchmarking mistakes. So this is what you need to do for students, okay? You need to say, hey, this is the purpose of this active intruder drill or fire drill. I mean, it's just more understandable, but this is why we're doing this drill. Do you understand it? And then have them say, this is why we're doing this drill. Or this is, why we're doing this tornado drill. And what I say is beware of benchmarking mistakes. And I get into this in just a second here, but benchmarking mistakes basically mean that, hey, we were able to evacuate the building in 3 minutes and 12 seconds. That's awesome. Well, if you compare like 10 elementaries, and this one is 3 minutes and 12 seconds, this one is 2 minutes, 30 seconds, this is whatever, you might just rank those and say, like, this was the best, this was the worst. The reality is, though, like, hey, this school was built in 1908. It's got like 3 flights of stairs, and it's like, laid out really crazy, and there's like different hallways you go down. This school was built 4 years ago. It's very easy to access. It's all on one level. It's easier to get out. There's more exits and things like that. So the thing is, like, when benchmarking, don't benchmark against other schools. Benchmark against your own school and then trying to improve. But it's not like there's a secret number. It's not like you look at your school and say, oh, yeah, we should be able to get everybody out of this school in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Well, I mean, what's your population also? Students with mobility disabilities and students with autism. I mean, all of these factors do come into play. So it's one of those things where you benchmark against kind of a ghost. So don't get too lost into that. And don't benchmark yourself against other schools because, again, your buildings are different. Your staff is different. The students that you serve are different. I don't find any value in that at all. So I wrote this in my dissertation in 2016, and I'm gonna just read through it. Many schools throughout the United States are mandated to hold drills or operational exercises to prepare for fires, tornadoes, violence, and other emergencies. Despite recommendations by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the U.S. Department of Ed, no local or federal agency routinely monitors the frequency and quality of drills. Think about that. No one is coming in and monitoring your drills. And of course, there's this thing you have to report at the end of the year. Yeah, we did fire drills on these dates and whatever, but no one's coming in and monitoring. They're not observing. They're not telling you if it's good or bad or how you could improve. Hence, drills are often checklist activities and not exercises to better informed practice. Furthermore, research that has been done to assess the impact of drills suggests that they produce both benefits, such as students learning the evacuation location, and drawbacks, including student apathy and becoming desensitized to drills. The other part with drills, and I don't agree with this, but people will say, well, if we do the drills, then we're just teaching the students who could be, school shooters how we work, and they're going to know that inside perspective of how these drills work. And it's like, yeah, I guess it could happen, but but the biggest drawback of student, apathy, and then also becoming desensitized to drills. So to test the efficacy of drills, Zaya Nickerson, 2007, conducted a study using a sample of 74 elementary students divided into 2 groups. The first group received a training session and participation in an intruder drill. The second group was a placebo and did not participate in the training or drill. In a post-drill measurement using questions and observations, the researchers looked at the areas of student knowledge of drills, skills, state of anxiety, and perceptions of school safety. The intervention group acquired the skill of safe relocation during the drill. Okay, the intervention group acquired the skill of safe relocation during the drill. However, there were no difference in state of anxiety or perception of school safety between the groups. So meaning, like, if you drill a lot, it's not like the anxiety was going down in groups, or the perception like that we're safer because you do the drills. Okay. So this is one of those things too of, when you drill, you really need to let students know why you're drilling, and let students have an input then to, why do you think we did this? How could we do this better? In whatever. In their study, Accountability and Assessment of Emergency Drills at Schools, Ramirez, Kubasek, Peak, Asa, and Wong, 2009, reported their findings about attitudes toward and perceptions of drills from a study school district. The authors revealed discouraging attitudes toward drilling. Drills were not typically recognized as a training vehicle, but rather as a compulsory exercise with little meaning. Observations indicated that students, particularly in the middle and high schools, often did not evacuate in an orderly fashion, for example, in lines, and staff generally did not correct this behavior. It's like, hey, all right, here's the fire alarm, 6th hour. All right, everybody go outside. You're supposed to go to the sidewalk, but I guess if you go to the parking lot, that's okay. Somebody has a radio. Okay, was it all clear? All clear? Bill, it's all clear? Bill, we got it? Okay, yeah, it's an all clear. Okay, we can go back in. So that's kind of what it's like, While observers recorded the amount of time it took for staff and students to evacuate a building, these figures could only be compared to local averages and not against any known recommended threshold. They also noted that students appeared desensitized to the drills. It is possible that the apathy for safety drills perceived by Ramirez was part of a larger question of students' indifference to their school. Finally, drills were not used as opportunities to adopt changes in problematic procedures. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But basically saying students get desensitized to drills, I think part because we don't explain it, we don't help them to understand why we're doing drills and then get input afterwards and see changes. And this whole thing of these figures could only be compared to local averages and not against any known recommended threshold. I don't think that's bad because, again, every building is unique. Every population served in the building is unique. But whatever you come up with in the building, the goal would be that the more you would practice it, the better you'd get. I mean, that you'd shave seconds off of that. I mean, just as you would with any practice. I go out and I practice, shooting layups in basketball. If I do that every day, eventually over time, I should get better at that just by sheer repetition. But again, it's one of these things that it's not like we have to set our goal that everybody's out at 2 minutes. Well, okay, that would be great. But does that make sense considering, you have multiple students with physical disabilities and autism? And so I guess your goal would be, here's your baseline. We want to decrease from baseline through repetition and helping kids get out of the building and staff. So, and my big thing is encourage questions of the kids, get the kids to ask questions, right? Right? That's the thing. Like, how often do we ask, did you really understand the drill? Why did we do this drill? What didn't you understand about the drill? What could make the drill better and more meaningful for you? We have to do the drills. Here's why. Like a state mandate or something. Be upfront. It's like a state mandate. So, hey, you know what time it is? It is trivia time here on the Safety Doc Podcast. It's trivia time. So let us enter trivia time. Dun, 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 dun. You know what? When I've been biking, I've been singing. Now, again, it's pretty desolate. So, like, I'll sing The Love Boat. I don't know why. It's pretty easy to sing. The Love Boat. Soon we'll be making another run. I don't even know if that's right. The Love Boat. It's just easy to sing. It sounds great when you're out. So, on a bike and not a boat. All right. Some trivia. It takes about 0.3 seconds to blink. For those of you that just watched this on YouTube, again, available on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. Subscribe, please, to the show. Please, okay? There's a weekly show. There's also a blog. I'm doing a brand new website, too, that's going to have the blog incorporated into the site. It's going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. Okay? But anyway. Gray whales make the longest annual migration of any mammal, 12,000 miles round trip, which completely blows away my round trip total for going to Disney Orlando in March. The first actor to refuse an Oscar, Marlon Brando, for The Godfather in 1973. Why? I don't know. And all right, okay, hold on, everybody. The Milky Way galaxy is moving at 170 miles per second, which is fast. 170 miles per second. And you know, at some point, the Milky Way and Andromeda will collide. So again, if you're watching this, like I have these great visuals of my hands colliding. But yeah, so that will be a downer day for a lot of people when that happens. Although, like, I've watched like videos of that. It'd be very slow motion when that happens. But yeah, billions of years out there. So consider that when you're doing any home improvement projects, that at some point the collision of the Andromeda and Milky Way probably are going to destroy all of your hard work that's done now. So, by the way, my bathroom is complete. My main bathroom, secondary bathroom, is being renovated now. I was informed by the builder that we have over 1,000 pounds of porcelain tile between the floor and the walls of the main bathroom. And we did 3 walls in tile, and the other is just painted drywall. So, but we have over 1,000 pounds of porcelain tile. Okay, as cited in Webb 2012, there are more than 500 choices to be considered in every conflict situation. Okay? Wow. 500 choices to be considered in every conflict situation. Seems overwhelming. So let's talk about better practices. Okay, let's talk and spend some time and kind of wrap things up here. So here's what I would recommend for schools wanting to prepare for a very safe start of the school year. I would do a community assembly a week before the school starts. I do this with administration, maybe get your police liaison officer, police, whatever. I mean, administrators, teacher, whoever you want to put together on this. It's not too big. It's not like everyone kind of is coming up and doing a forum presentation, but basically, I would record it. So I would hold it at the school. I try to get people to come to it. And I'd record it and I'd play it like on cable access or make it available on the school website. And then how about like a 30-second advertisement in the local movie theater? Took my daughters to see a movie recently. And one of the things I noticed is, like, before the movie starts, they have these like 30-second commercials from local businesses. It's like Schultz Small Engine, for all your small engine needs, which is where I bought my weed whacker, mower, and snowblower. They're wonderful, by the way. But anyway, they have these commercials, or the hair salon or whatever. And I'm thinking you could easily, work that in, create something and get that in saying, hey, by the way, it's back to school time. So, we have a focus on safety. And if anything happens, know that the school is going to be communicating out to you. Please don't come to the school. We'll keep you informed. And the best thing, is to understand our school reporting policy. We have information up on our website. Also information at community forums that are going to, at the start of school or, whatever you want to do with that. But I'm like, why doesn't anybody do that? Like, I'm sitting there before a movie and it's pretty packed. There's a lot of people in it. Not every community has a movie theater. I know that, but come on. That's like perfect. It's perfect. So while I'm eating my nachos with jalapenos, overview school safety practices. Okay. But this isn't a forum for input into practices. So when you get together in the school auditorium or performing arts or whatever, and let's say 100 or 200 people show up, let's just say that. So this is not an input session. It's not where people raise hands and say, I think you should do this, or I think you should do this, or whatever. I think you can have that. You can say, like, we're going to stay around afterwards and we're going to answer questions and have people come up and answer, ask questions so they can feel like, they've had their voice heard. But I think you come in a very detailed graphic manner. When I say graphic, like, through visuals and things like that, say, like, school safety is important to us. Here's what we do. You don't have to give away all of the trade secrets of your school. Here's what we do. Here's your role as a parent. It's very important. If you notice anything, a gut feeling or whatever, please contact us. If it turns out to be nothing, no problem. But you know what? Maybe it's something. And, again, this is what we're doing. Here's, we do have cameras. Cameras really, though, are forensic tools for, after the event, if there's a fight or something like that. And talk about that. Talk about, too, that, hey, if anything happens here, like, let's say we do have an intruder event, there's going to be hundreds of responders, and all call goes out, and people on duty, off duty. There could be people an hour or two away who decide to respond. And this happens all the time to these type of events. There's going to be a social media flurry. So, like, you're going to see people, like, just swarming here from all over. It's going to be very difficult for us to manage. We are going to make sure that we have our instant command. We're going to work with our local police, and you will see us on very quickly, on the news, identifying the information that we have and saying, we don't know this at this time. We're going to be upfront with you. And also, like, here's how reunification is going to work. We're going to identify the best site that's not going to interfere with the responders. Then also, we can't predict exactly what's going to be a secured area and what's not. But we will work with the responders. We'll get your children to the secured area. We'll make you aware of that. We'll have a process then to reunify you with your child. So do not worry about that. When your child's with us, they will be in safekeeping. So, but do not say, like, here's the reunification site for school X, school Y, school Z, because you cannot guarantee that, okay? And nothing is crazier than all of a sudden a parent showing up and it's like, oh, no, we can't use this anymore because this site is within the perimeters. Now it's been moved to whatever. It's like, what? So, but the biggest thing is tell people, don't come to school. Do not block these arteries, which we need for the responders to come in and out. We will tell you where to go. We'll give you a staging area, and that's where your children will be brought to you. And maybe it is going to be something where it has resolved at the school, and you will be able to come to the school. But we're going to let you know of that. But do not just come rushing to the school. That's going to cause interference. And we know you're going to get text. We know you're going to get voicemails. You're going to get calls from your child saying, something's not right here at school. Please come and get me. But you need to know, for us to best respond to this situation, we cannot have hundreds of cars pulling up and just parking, all over the place and just blocking off the arteries for our emergency responders, which happened again at Sandy Hook in 2012. So, also the fact of, do not believe social media of what's going on. There's going to be a lot of stuff circulating. We will do press conferences. We'll be very timely in those and getting information out to you. Again, we want to get your child reunified to you as soon as possible, but there also might be instances where, we need to get information from your child. But again, there's going to be a lot of emergency responders. We're going to have a lot of people who are going to be supporting the situation and supporting also our reunification. So, so think of your induction process for staff and students. So I'm telling you, this is better practice as a school. At the start of the school year, you always have this. You cover, like, here's what we do for all the different safety things and harassment, bullying, and reporting, and all these numbers and whatever. But, like, once school gets going, a month or whatever, student moves in, you get a new teacher who's hired, a position that wasn't filled. What do you do for induction for those folks? Okay, not a lot. And it's not the same that would have happened at the start of the year. So you need to make sure that you have a robust induction process of saying, here's our induction process for safety. And even for, like, sub-teachers, that there's some induction process. But I'm saying, when you hire someone, typically mid-year, they lose out on a lot of that professional development, which happens before the school year. And it's absolutely critical for safety to have those people on board from day one. Well, you can do that through videos, through recordings. I remember years ago, I worked at Menards, okay, And my first 2 days, like in college, and my first 2 days of employment was strictly watching informational videos about like how Menards operates and procedures and things like that. And actually it was very, very helpful that they did that. And I think the same thing should happen for schools. I think there should be a mandatory, maybe 1 day, and then, that you're also then encouraged to ask questions. What do you understand? What do you not understand? I don't know necessarily make people take a competency quiz or something, but, anyway, as an administrator, ask, so you have your administrative team meetings like every Monday or whatever. And if something sentinel happens somewhere else or in a nearby district, say, if that happened here, how would we handle it? How might we handle it? Now, again, context and situation is different everywhere, okay? You never have anything that's the same. You have things that are similar, never the same. But you could say, boy, it looks like this is something they did which we really liked, okay? So let's look at this and maybe keep this in a file or keep, electronic file or whatever in case something like that were to happen here. Or also here's something they did that we probably wouldn't do. And again, not that you're judging, it's just you have a different culture, you have a different situation, context, different neighborhoods, things like that. But I think that's a good way to study things and just to bring up those discussions. The timing of drills. I remember I went to a school district and they said, okay, Dave, we're going to run a drill so you can observe it. But we run the drills at the end of 6th hour because then we have time between 6th and 7th hour and we know where everybody is and lunch is already done and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, right there, it's like, you're running drills in a very predictable time when you're not going to have as much chaos. And, what happens if you run this drill during the middle of lunch? What happens if you run this drill during recess or as kids are coming into the building? And not that you'd probably want to do that a lot, but you should do it once in a while just to see what happens and how people respond. One of the interesting things in my book of Lessons of Lower Manhattan about the rescue of 500,000 people in 9 hours, it was a perfect weather day. 80 degrees. It was sunny, well into the evening, 4 mile per hour winds. So you had a lot of things just contextually that contributed to that successful rescue. But again, let's take this in a different direction. Or what if it's raining outside? I mean, are you really going to run a drill when it's raining outside? Well, you probably should, like at least once. Are you going to get a lot of angry people upset with you and a lot of phone calls stuff? Probably. I'm not saying that you do this and, a whole bunch, but I mean, maybe it's something that you do. So again, and I think it's important. That changes your benchmarking too. If you're doing your drill every 6th hour at the end of 6th hour when it's very predictable, that benchmarking is going to be different than if you're doing that drill during lunch or while half the kids are out on the playground and stuff like that. So again, do it across environments, vary it up. And let people know you're going to do that ahead of time too, like parents and things like that. We're going to do these drills. We're not going to do it to the point where we're going to try to disrupt learning or something like that, but we're going to vary these drills up, because we need to know how we operate in different times of the day. And I'm going to close here with how to follow up immediately after a drill, but only after we hear a few more words about the Safety Doc podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin, author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Perrodin has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Perrodin and the Safety Doc podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We are in the final stretch of the Safety Doc podcast. Hey, this is our back to school safety special. So I'm going to talk about how to follow up immediately after a drill. So if you're an administrator, this is a great strategy. It's super simple. But what we do, we don't follow up after drills. We do a drill and then we might talk about at a staff meeting how the drill goes or something like that. Even if that happens, a lot of times it doesn't happen. But follow up after a drill. What I've done is I developed a Google survey. Super easy, okay? I have basically 4 questions on it. And what I do, so let's say there's a drill. We're going to run this drill and let people know ahead of time. This drill is going to happen, okay? And afterwards, you are going to be sent a Google survey, like immediately afterwards. As soon as you get back in the building, that survey will be in your inbox. You then go to the inbox and complete that survey. It's going to have 4 questions on it, okay? 4 questions. Here are the 4 questions, all right? Your location during the drill. And part of this is you can identify parts of the building that maybe don't have great communications, or if somebody was outside or something like that, but your location during the drill. Again, you're sending this to teachers. And you're saying, we're going to run this drill. You go back, let's say it's a lockdown drill, fire drill, whatever it is. We're running this drill. You go back to your room. You're going to have this in your inbox. And within that hour, before the end of the hour, you complete this survey, which is 4 questions. That first question, where were you during the drill? Okay. And you might have people say, like, I had some kids going to the bathroom. We were transitioning back from gym. We were in the hallway, whatever that is. Okay. Did you hear the announcement of the drill? Big question. Did you hear it? How did you? And of course, you let people know ahead of time, and then a comment section, like I heard it, but it's kind of muffled. Like we don't have a good speaker system, or I kind of heard it through my phone and I wasn't very clear of it. So those are areas that you can pinpoint specifically and go in and enhance communications. And it's not that hard to do this day and age to do that. So did you hear the announcement of the drill? Question 3. Any questions or constructive input from you, the teacher, okay? And it could be something like, we had 2 classrooms, and I'm not sure, like, we were kind of like co-teaching in one classroom. Should we just have stayed there? But I took my kids back to, like, my classroom. There were some kids in a hallway from a different part of the building, and I just brought them into my room, but then, like, their teacher doesn't know where they're at. We were going out for, it was a bomb threat drill that we were doing, and a student insisted on taking their backpack. I told them they couldn't. We got in an argument. Should I just have let them take their backpack? Those type of questions and constructive input coming in. And number 4, this is the big one. What questions do students have? It means you get back from the drill and you sit down. Remember we talked about the research showing students are desensitized? And you sit down with students and you maybe circle up the desk or whatever. And you take a few minutes and you say, okay, what went well with the drill? What did you understand? What was the purpose of the drill? How could it have been better? How did you feel? Are you anxious? Does it not matter to you? And you're going to get this feedback from students of students saying, I don't know why we do these, or like, what if I was in the bathroom when this happened? Or other things that they might question. So I think you're going to have that. What questions do students have? You put all this together. So this is the 4 questions, okay? And you get those into administration through this Google survey by the end of the hour. That's the expectation. And as an administrator, I think you're unyielding on that. That has to be done. You compile it, and then the next day you get feedback to your administration about that. And I think you can also share that with students, like during the morning announcements or something like that, or something very, very succinct saying, students, thank you. Here are like 3 points that you noted. We're going to look into those more. That really is powerful. Students feeling that they've been heard, that they have a voice. Very, very powerful. So again, what questions do students have? Drill at different times of the day, and pull a fire alarm during a lockdown. Hey, do you know what you're supposed to do if you're in lockdown and a fire alarm sounds? You're supposed to stay in lockdown, okay? Because you already have, emergency responders likely responding. But that fire drill to get you out of the hallways, that you don't respond to a fire drill during lockdowns. So again, to let people know that if on the playground, what do? Do you return to the building? Do you run to a location? Do the playground supervisors have discretion to take you off school premises? Because, obviously if a building's on fire, you're not going to run back into a burning building. So, those type of questions are going to come up. And here's another thing. No surprise intruder drills. And you don't make intruder drills look like authentic events where you have people, and again, we don't do this cross industry. You don't come into banks and banks shut down for a day and they have like a teller who looks like, he or she's been shot and blood all over the floor and stuff like that. And this is how you respond in case somebody comes in and gives you, a message, all the money or you're all dead or something like that. No surprise intruder drills. And this is where litigation comes in. You can Google search this. It is rising. And then also what's going to eventually happen is you are going to have somebody with conceal and carry who is going to anticipate then that or expect that that's a real event that's happening. And they're going to fire and injure or kill somebody who's just conducting out a drill. You don't do these surprise intruder drills. Okay. You just don't. Make it this is traumatizing. It's also in vogue to do this because it's very visual and people feel it and they feel like it's safe and they've done it. The thing that you have to remember is you do a drill and the next day you're having different responders come to that drill if there's an all call. People are on duty, people are off duty, attrition, turnover in staff after a couple of weeks, after a couple of months, after whatever. So, this one drill a year thing only provides so much awareness. Really, it provides awareness for if it's local PD and it's a smaller community of what the layout of the school is. So, and again, it's this whole assumption that there's one school shooter. What if there's like actually 3 school shooters? What if one is on top of the building? And there are certain things like you realize if you come to a school shooting scene and someone is on top of a building, that's a very bad sign. That means they have advanced military education and they're operating from an elevated position. So make it routine for police to visit the school and to do a walkthrough. That's very easy. Most school shootings happen right away in the morning. If police park out in front of school and they're just doing some paperwork or they get out and they're greeting some families as they come in, just a friendly thing, that's great. Or if you have if police officers that periodically stop at the school, do a walkthrough, those type of visibility things are great, but it's not only that, it's an officer knows a layout of that building in case they have to respond to that building. Not only for that, but maybe a medical emergency or something to that effect. Don't be oversold on things like drone proofing schools. For a while it was like we have to put in these high definition video cameras. No, it's forensic. But anyway, like drone proofing schools and other intense fortification. I've noticed like some drills happening now of like, what happens if we have a drone attack? Well, the likelihood of that is really, really low. And I'm actually having a guest on my show next week who is a commercial drone operator, and we are going to take one of his drones and fly it into an electronic barrier that it cannot penetrate around a hospital. So there are technologies which will emerge, but the fact is we're not going to see this. This is, if it does, it's going to be, a one-time event. This just isn't the mode of delivery. It's either going to be by gun or more likely the new trend is by vehicle, harm to others. So we're not going to see people try to outfit drones and all of this. It's just not practical because once you're in a school, you can't get the drone in a school. But yet we see people drilling for these things, like for these drone attacks in states. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Remember that creating a hard target also creates a soft target. So if you're creating a target where it's impossible to get into the school, you have multiple checkpoints and security and stuff. How about the bus stop? How secure is that where, you might have 40 students on a bus and another 5 getting on? What's the security of that? What's the security of the football field at night, when it's all dark and you have your 4-foot fence surrounding it and stuff like that? It's just, you have to be aware of there's hard targets and there's soft targets. The best thing, again, gets into your reporting system, making people aware of how to report, right? So the thought of a drone attack, again, it's intriguing. It's really unlikely and things like that. But so the back to school thing, you're going to get a lot of hype about safety. Again, the odds are that it's 1 in 13,000 years of any school shooting in a school. Schools are very, very safe for students. The biggest thing is understanding how to trust that gut feeling, how to report that if you're a student or a staff member, and not going overboard with these drills.